NBA viewership is down and old media is dying. I'm sure you've heard people going on and on about this for the past few months, but it is real. Less people are tuning in for live games now than they have in years past, even though the league is supposedly more popular now than ever before. Of course, there are a lot of reasons for this that we could dive into. For example, the younger generation may have the worst attention span ever seen. Broadcasting the games has become overly complicated, especially if you live within the market of your favorite team. Illegal streams are easy to use and plentiful. The people who are paid to talk about the sport spend most of their time either talking about a handful of individual players or just ridiculing the product as a whole. China has not been broadcasting games for a while. The players are injured and missing more time now than seemingly ever before. Start times have become stupidly late in the night for people on the East Coast. Referees are blowing their whistles every time a player feigns getting hit. The end of games take way too long. Gambling advertising has become obnoxious, and the list goes on. At least Adam Silver acknowledges all of this and is desperately looking for ways to improve the on-court product. He has without a doubt made improvements to the sport over the past 10 years. For example, take fouls no longer kill fast breaks. Offensive rebounds only give teams 14 seconds, which forces more scoring. The Coach's Challenge helps correct human error in officiating. The play-in tournament keeps more teams playing meaningful basketball longer into the season. And the draft lottery reworking no longer so heavily favors completely tanking teams. These have all made the sport unquestionably better, but some new features have been less beneficial to the league. The in-season tournament is not the draw the league hoped it would be. Even with broadcasters being told to hype it up as much as they can, the reality is 4 midweek regular season games on colorful courts has not increased viewership in any long-term or meaningful way, and the All-Star Weekend remains unwatchable. No matter what the league has tried, whether it be prize money to the victors, team captains picking squads, a target final score, or the traditional East versus West, nothing has changed the fact that the players themselves do not care about the game. They make way too much money, and there is far too much on the line in the final couple months of the season for them to want to risk injury. But more experimental changes are coming. Today, I wanted to talk about 5 adjustments to the NBA that may be coming sooner rather than later in an attempt to save the league's viewership and spark a rejuvenated interest in the American professional version of the sport. Some of these ideas are destined to be announced any day now. Others may seem ridiculous, but in 10 years, we won't be able to imagine a league without them. And of course, a couple may just be a bit too crazy, but are still at least being talked about. Before we dive in, please like the video as it helps me out a lot more than I think you guys realize, and subscribe for more basketball related content. I'm trying to hit 1 billion subscribers by the end of the year, so let's make that happen. The first major league shakeup I need to bring up is expansion. From the pessimistic side, it may sound silly to suggest that diluting the league's talent could possibly increase viewership, but that is the wrong way to look at it. The sport of basketball is more popular right now than ever before. There are dozens, maybe even hundreds of professionals playing around the world right now who could make current NBA teams better. But roster spots are very few and far between, and they are mostly being used up by the few guaranteed high-end talent players, deadweight contracts that teams are kicking themselves over, and young guys on rookie deals who aren't long for the league. The NBA will be adding teams to Las Vegas and Seattle in the not-too-distant future. And this will result in fan bases either growing anew or out of the ashes of their former team. With these, over 26 new roster spots will be in the league, and it will bring more high-quality talent stateside and open the doors to new all-stars and storylines. In fact, the NBA may be adding more than just 2 teams. I made a video breaking down 5 other destinations in North America that have a good shot at getting an NBA franchise. The link for that is in the description. Expansion is on the way, but one thing holding it up, believe it or not, I believe is LeBron James. He has made it clear he would like to own an NBA franchise someday. And the King, at least being a minority owner of a theorized Vegas franchise, would be a massive draw to the common fringe NBA fan. I have a very strong feeling that Adam Silver is patiently waiting for LeBron to retire so that this can become a reality. So stay tuned for that. Another shakeup to the league that I think needs to happen is the return of the 20-second timeout. Back in the day, NBA teams had their timeouts broken down into 4 full 1-minute ones and 2 brief 20-second ones. The purpose of changing the 20-second timeouts into full ones was to create more advertising time in the form of commercials, which in turn resulted in a little more money being thrown the NBA's way. But in case you have not noticed, advertising during the actual game is no longer a taboo for the league, especially in the modern world where less people are watching traditional television with ads thanks to the creation of things like League Pass or other streaming services, which allow those rewatching the game, or people who are just late to the start, to skip through commercials. By running ads during the broadcast, viewers are forced to see them. Have you noticed that almost every free throw features ads that encompass at least 2/3 of the screen nowadays? The league already did what was one time unthinkable by throwing sponsorship patches on jerseys, and the court has ads every spot they can squeeze them. Bringing back 20-second timeouts would increase the pace of play, and ads can still be ran while showing the players huddled around their coach. Even though many people openly hate the predatory advertising of sports gambling, it would be very easy to throw on odds for the game where they currently sit during those timeouts, which would drive people to the sports betting apps and more money. Honestly, this seems like a no-brainer, and it's probably destined to happen very soon. Another shakeup to the NBA, which has been drawing more and more conversation in recent years, would be increasing the distance of the three-point line. I am sure you are aware that the sport of basketball has evolved a lot in the past 20 years. In 2004, the league average of threes shot per game for an entire team was 14. Today, the league average is 37. The fewest being shot is 30 right now, which is double the league average back then. Currently, the Boston Celtics are launching 51 tries a game. Old heads hate this, and old heads also don't understand technology and are still paying for television. If the three-point shot becomes less viable due to its efficiency dropping, then teams will adapt and go back to scoring inside the arc more. And the long shooting we would see would become even more jaw-dropping, and honestly would probably spark an increased interest from the younger generation for the new extra long-range shooters. I am not saying we do something stupid like what the Filipino Basketball Association is doing by adding a 4-point line, but I do believe moving the line back by about 1/4 of a meter at the top, which is about 9 inches, and maybe 1/8 of a meter or 5 inches from the corners, that would be a good thing. This would be just enough to not negate the three-point shot, but it would lower the shooting efficiency just enough to make teams adapt. Also, yes, the court would need to be widened a little bit, I am aware of that. In case you think this sounds crazy, remember the league has changed the distance of the three-point line on 2 occasions already. After its birth in the NBA for the 1980 season, the league lowered the distance for the 95 season by 1/2 a meter at the top in order to increase long shot volume. And it worked. Then 3 years later for the 98 season, they brought it back to its original distance, which is where it still stands today. I think lengthening the three-point line would be a good thing for the NBA. Even if it throws off everyone's understood view of the court a little temporarily, I don't think this idea is too far-fetched, and it may actually have a good benefit to the league. The next league shakeup would be a week-long abroad tour for every NBA team during the regular season. This may sound a bit silly, but hear me out. The NBA already likes to play a few games here and there in alternate destinations. If you check a stadium crowd for a random game in January or February and notice a lot of empty seats, then you are seeing the problem. Unless the team is exceptionally talented, local crowds just do not show up for all 41 home games every year. And the NBA loves to televise international games in places like Mexico, England, France, the United Arab Emirates, and formerly China. Why not plan every season for all 30 teams to go play 2 matches abroad? In groups of 2, the teams would travel to a destination, maybe do a PR event with the community there, play a couple matches over a 3 or 4 day span, then travel back. The pros would be these games would draw full crowds as foreign fans get their one chance to watch their favorite teams and players. Also, if every team does it, there won't be any advantages or disadvantages to worry about. And the league would undoubtedly grow an even bigger foreign fan base, which will draw even more eyes to their product, and more importantly, to their advertisements. The few countries I already mentioned already make a lot of sense, but Europe and the Middle East are full of major cities with passionate sport fans. East Asia loves basketball. Oceania has a growing passion for the sport. And other destinations like Africa and South America are almost completely untapped of an NBA footprint thus far. I'm honestly surprised this isn't already in the works to be more of a staple for every NBA season. And finally, the last change to the NBA that is more likely to happen sooner rather than later would be the complete restructure of their roster format and entire G League system. A few years ago, the NBA added two-way contracts, which opened the door for teams to expand their roster a bit and actually use their official minor league clubs in meaningful ways. Two-way deals started at 2 and now have grown to 3. I believe the league needs to expand this further. In my hypothetical restructure of team building, every NBA club would be required to have between 10 and 12 full-time NBA players under contract. These guys would be guaranteed to full NBA salaries regardless of whether they play or not, including whether or not they get sent to the G League team for on-court opportunity. Then from here, they could sign up to 18 total players, meaning each NBA roster could have between 6 and 8 two-way guys. I would also revise the NBA draft in a way that may seem a bit controversial, but I think it makes the most sense given the league's history. It is very rare for more than a handful of second-round picks to turn into meaningful NBA contributors. Most are drafted, maybe play a year or two, and are forgotten. In this great revision of the league, I have all second-round picks and the newly introduced third-round picks would only be able to be signed to one-year, two-way deals, but they would all be restricted free agents after their rookie year, which would allow teams, if they want to keep their players, they can keep them in case they do get a diamond in the rough. This would all be done with the goal of fielding out better G League teams, but also, more importantly, keeping NBA roster spots actually in the hands of NBA caliber players. And lastly, this may be a bit ridiculous for me to say, but the NBA needs to pay their minor league players a better salary. Right now, the G League players earn only about $40,000 a year, which is less than fast food managers earn in most states in the US. Not to knock on the average hardworking American, but why on earth would a guy just barely not good enough to make the NBA play for this low salary when they can earn 6 or sometimes even 7 figures abroad? This is why random NBA players who aren't any good with the big league team can go down to the minor league and drop 30 a night. They aren't playing against anybody any good. Most mid-season signings are either guys sitting at home or are from foreign leagues. Actual non-two-way G League players don't get NBA opportunities often because they just aren't good enough. If the minor league is going to exist to help develop actual NBA talent, they have to compete with foreign leagues' pay. I don't think they should fork up too much money, but $40K a year is laughable. Maybe $90K would be a better start, and two-way guys could earn up to $500K or maybe even $1 million, I'm not sure. If the league makes these revisions, they will have a better farm system and more hardcore fans will be inspired to watch individual players they are fond of in more meaningful minor league games. More players would get drafted and more storylines would be told and followed. This is all very easy to do. The league has the money to do this, but of course they would need the Players Association's approval. And unfortunately, they have shown time and time again they are just chasing the biggest dollars without much thought. Anything that cuts into the earning of the top 1% for some reason always gets denied. It's funny how that works in pretty much every facet of society. And there you have it. 5 revisions to the NBA that very well may be coming soon. I'm really curious to hear what you guys think about my ideas, and please let me know yours. The NBA is always evolving. Suggesting the game will look the same in 20 years is just silly. Let's try to predict the future of the sport here. Thank you guys for watching all the way to the end. Please like the video and subscribe if you have not already. I will see you all next time.